This is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and this is part 3 of my slow descent into an eating disorder. So I just thought I would share with you. I'm going over an old blog that I used to keep kind of when all of this was happening, when I was really developing an eating disorder and getting into the thick of it, and looking back at some old assumptions that I had, and hopefully it'll be helpful for you guys as well. So there's part 1 and part 2 if you want to watch those. Just a warning about all the spooky things here. There will be before and after pictures, and there will be weight talk, and there will be all of that stuff. So if that is an issue, avert your eyes, plug your ears, and for the rest of us, let's sally forth. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. This was a blog called Skinny Liddy that I kept because I never thought I could be thin, and then I'm like, oh wait, I can, but I didn't know, oh wait, that'll give me an eating disorder. So I'll show you kind of how that all worked. So I'll show you some of the snippets of blog posts so you guys can kind of see an example. So I was so proud of my thinness. Like once I had lost weight, just with restricting calories, I felt unhappy with my body. I decided that I would manipulate my body and somehow magically change my relationship with food by doing so, which did not happen. It got much, much worse. But this is my wedding dress. And I made this post about how, wow, look, it's like I'm swimming in these sleeves now because I was so much thinner. But my badge of honor had become how thin I could get. Like that was something that became so important to me and really a part of my image. And, what I was proud of was like, look how thin I am. And so can I just apologize to like the whole world? I'm sorry for body shaming myself on my wedding day, like what my body used to be like. I'm sorry for essentially creating a blog about like how to have an eating disorder. I was doing my best at the time, but it's really great to look back now that I'm fully recovered from, food obsession and bulimia and all the stuff that comes along with that. Yep, I was just really proud of how thin I was. Here are some before and after pictures. So this, when I talk about my slow descent into an eating disorder, this is what it looked like. So I found out how to lose some weight. I'd never been able to before in my life, but I just, kind of ate very little. And what happened was I lost weight, and this sort of satisfaction that I thought would come from it, like, oh, I've lost the weight and now I've arrived and now I'm happy and now I like my body and now I have a great relationship with food. It didn't happen. And I didn't think that it was because that was a lie, which I would say it is. Now, I believe that is a complete lie, that it's a false promise. It's an empty hope. That's not going to happen when you lose weight. But I thought, oh, well, it's not because that's a lie. That feeling is still there. That feeling is still achievable. I just need to go further. So I'm like, oh, well, it's not about thinness anymore. It's about fitness. It's about leanness. I just have to keep manipulating my body until I feel happy and satisfied. And that is a never-ending game, right? So these are just some pictures of me. If you like, as you see, I'm just getting really, really lean. This is a very unnatural place for my body. For my body to stay at this point of leanness means food obsession, means binge eating, like all these sorts of things started coming up. And of course I wasn't going to say that on my blog where I was so proud of how thin I was. I just showed the after picture. And please remember that, not every lean, thin woman has an eating disorder, but I did. And you may be surprised at how many, progress pictures that you see where that person feels shame about their relationship with food, so they're not publishing it everywhere. So that's kind of where it started. So it started with being unhappy with my body, trying to manipulate my body, and then trying to, push it farther. How much farther can I go? So one of my big goals was to get leaner, right? So I list that as one of my goals. I've been, working. I've been, really cutting my calories very, very low. I had been working out a lot, and it worked body-wise. Like I was much leaner, I was much thinner, unnaturally thin for my set point. But the gratification of like, oh, I can manipulate things to get to where I want to go worked for a second, okay? So here's another picture of me with my little girl. And she was about how many pounds I had lost, and I'm like, oh, isn't this awesome? And look at my happy, smiling face in this picture with my little anorexic looking body. And I mean, there are all sorts of types of bodies. Please don't feel like I'm thin shaming at all. Like, I'm saying that is what my body looks like in an unnatural place. That is not my natural shape. So if that's your natural shape, awesome. It was not mine. I had to do a lot to get there. So for instance, you see the smile there, and I want to give you a little peek behind the curtain of what was happening at this point. So in this picture, I was eating very few calories. And I was just like crazy about food. Like, I was just obsessed with it all the time. I couldn't wait to get more of it. I thought about it always. I scrolled through pages and pages of recipes. I was always trying to eat less. In fact, I'll talk about that in an upcoming video about the weird stuff that I ate. I was just so scared of food, you guys. Oh, it was so scary for me. But I just thought like there was something wrong with me, that I was just somehow crazy and that I had to fix my relationship with food. And I never once connected like, oh, I'm eating so little food. That's why my body and my brain have driven me to be so crazy about it. So I was working out a lot. I was eating very little. I had started into my eating disorder at this point, just binging on food uncontrollably, super freaked out about it, counting every calorie, every macro, that was like food and the lack thereof was my life. I was also pregnant in this picture. I had just found out, I had had a really hard time getting pregnant before this. Like, I had tried, never related that with how I was eating. Like, then maybe my body wasn't having an easy time getting pregnant because I wasn't nourishing my body at all. But I did eventually get pregnant, and I am pregnant in this picture, and it is not slowing my eating disorder down at all. So shortly after I took this picture, I was working out really hard in the gym one morning. I went into the locker room and I collapsed. I just fell on the floor, just kind of bruised myself up when I hit the tile. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I was just on the floor. And eventually, somebody who worked at the gym came in and found me and gave me a ride home because I couldn't drive. So just so you know, behind this happy smiling face, like, that was my life of just absolutely in hell. It was horrible. But the one thing that I could be proud of in all my misery was how thin I was. And I just wanted so much to fight for that. So I actually ended up having some complications, ectopic pregnancy, had almost died, my abdomen filled with 1 liter of blood. I went to the hospital for emergency surgery. And so this is a blog post with, I feel like a blob, because I was so sad that because I was hospitalized and, had just had surgery, that I couldn't work out as hard. Listen to my priorities of past Lydia. I was so upset that I couldn't work out as hard. I was so upset that I had to eat hospital food for a little while. I didn't have control over that. I was so upset that because of the IVs that had been pumped through me, like, I had puff and bloat. And my biggest thing when I got out of the hospital was like, you know what? This is just one setback that I'm going to overcome. And I was all about getting back the muscle. This is like my inspiration picture for when I'm in bed with this big scar and healing and have been living with a secret eating disorder. And yeah, this is where I went. Like, it did not slow me down. Like, being pregnant didn't slow me down, and losing a baby didn't slow me down, and getting out of surgery didn't slow me down. Like, at that point, I was so mentally obsessed with that thing that I wanted to protect, which was, you know what? I can control my body. I can do this. And I did not realize that me trying to manipulate the size and the shape and the look of my body was going to create this just obsession with food and this terrible cycle. So it's so interesting for me, like I haven't looked at this for a long time, and I used to have this picture like on my phone, like as my background, like this was my inspiration. I remember actually showing this to a friend of mine who's a personal trainer, hoping to get some tips of how to be leaner and thinner. And I remember him telling me, he's like, you realize she's photoshopped, right? Like you realize she's airbrushed. And it was like my brain just didn't get it. Like intellectually, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, like it's this image, so she probably is. But at the time, it did not click with me. It didn't matter at all, because I think that I felt that no matter how airbrushed she was, that I could be that for real, right? Like, oh yeah, maybe she's airbrushed, but I can make my body look like that for real. I can do it. I can work hard enough. Because in my mind, all I had to do was work out more, eat less, and I could control my body and how it looked and everything that happened. And maybe manage this weird thing that I do where I eat food until I can't breathe, and then have to recover by eating even less for the next, week. So I didn't relate my eating disorder with this at all, but I look back and I'm like, oh, okay. So a little recap: feeling dissatisfied with my body, restricting calories, and then just the loop of fighting against my biology so that my body just was driving me to eat a ton, and then I had to try even harder on the other end, and just how it was impacting my health and all of this. So another little glimpse into the descent into my eating disorder. And if you are feeling in angst with your relationship with food, you can go to lydialifestyle.com, and there's a free ebook, and there's a free Facebook group. There's all sorts of stuff for you guys. Just helps along the way. I believe that every woman can have freedom from the food crazies. So Lydia Wente, the lifestyle coach. Mwah.